the changes coming up as the network has opted to change its direction and a different direction than definitely what we were with all the transitionings, and I'll go into some of that too along my journey in digital broadcasting from my start with the Fox Sports RSNs, regional sports networks, to the journey through and the transition from that to short time as Disney, then divested to Sinclair, Bally Sports, transitioned to FanDuel Sports, and that's where that journey in the sports digital world will stop, as I'm currently in the job search again with the change in direction. Somber moment, but exciting moment. Seeing all the different opportunities I'm going through, starting with journey through broadcasting, impact of inspirational content that's had on me, the future of sports media. I'll give my insights and thoughts about that, skills and adaptation, media production, and how I can adapt pretty fast, and navigating career transitions. It doesn't happen too often, but a first and everything, and go over that, starting with the journey. It's been a wild ride for sure. By starting as an intern with the Fox Sports Networks in the Woodlands, Texas, going to full time digital content person assistant with the FanDuel Sports Network, but started out with Fox Sports Networks. I walked into Woodlands one day, not knowing too much, digital sports web, right out of college. And three major components, aspects into this group that were, we were on the web and we were clipping post game for the web. It started there. And I was uh, mainly came up with the got in as a video editor, but would do like some other roles, duties, kind of like tasks along the way with feed managing, satellite feed, later internet feed, booking, and of course editing. Did I mention live streaming? Internet, satellite, yeah, I mentioned that as well. And that's where it was starting, the Woodlands, and what was called the NOC, the knock, in the Woodlands Fox facility. I think it's currently a Disney facility or something there still today. When that was transitioned later into Atlanta. But man, key moments. Come up with key moments. I have one outside of the Fox route. I kind of took on myself. I took on 2017 to get into that's the inspirational content. That is a nice transition actually. Key moments with the Fox thing that I learned is I was always one thing I was always told, and verbal communication from the start in this, and where I struggled early on, interviews and everything, work on my communication, but a lot of good things were said about my written communication. So I guess that's one thing to note on maybe one of those soft skills type of things. Written communication was strong. I'm clearing my throat here, but I move on. But I get into like podcasting where I produced 150 plus, probably a little bit closer to 200 actually, more like 170, but 100 to say over 150 episodes is pretty accurate. And I actually had launched one in 2017 and launched another in 2022. 2017 was my own, which was this podcast that I'm currently talking on. That was 2017. And I have about 125, maybe 130. I've been keeping it up today and with effort to do this episode today to keep the January thing going. But the other podcast started 2022 was consistently going at least a month. We moved up to a weekly episode consistently over the last year so far. Don't know how long that may last, but we have a few more to publish. But we definitely got to our goal this year of our second season to get to 50 episodes. And we had a very fun conversation, the last one that's currently in the publishing process. But I want to get to like how I led into podcasting and the impact of inspirational content. Is 2016 when I it was a transition to a role within the Fox thing, under the Fox umbrella, and I moved to a region of one of the networks. 2016, and had a little help and support there, but I would quickly find myself by myself. I always say in a city I hated due to sports, because I was a Houston guy and I moved to Dallas. And I always say I moved to a city I hated alone. And I end up like just by myself there in a city I hated that related to sports. And I was told about this content opportunity, listening opportunity, consumption opportunity. School of Greatness podcast by Lewis Howes. And that's when I first discovered that. Now, it's a little notable to mention I got into that kind of content, like, and looking into like developing personal development in maybe 2011 when someone was like starting all that as well, and I got kind of into that. So a little bit before, and it's also when I heard about Toastmasters, which I would soon keep hearing, work on your communication, and then I take up that thing I heard about Toastmasters, and I up to this day been active every day in Toastmasters since joining. But going back to the School of Greatness, they great content, and it's led to some other things that I've done that have helped me develop a positive, a more, I don't want to say efficient mindset. I don't know what, positive mindset, and just to always like keep working on myself, kind of thing, and definitely personal development. Work on School of Greatness focuses on 8 principles of life: financial, business, relationships, spiritual, among the few. I'd have to go to the what it was, School of Greatness Academy, where I had soon got into the first word group where I jumped right in on the first week of that. It was an 8 week thing. Jumped in. It was a network thing. We were tasked to network and find people, find and build a group that we would work in for the next 8 weeks. And I really thrived in that, especially week one. And people would like come out and tell me all that and everything. Intersection of sports and self improvement, perhaps discussing how athlete stories of perseverance. I mean, there's a lot of inspiration in sports. I think that's why it's really appealing for people to like work into it, and the uncertainty of covering game coverage, not knowing really what's happening. Maybe it's getting a little more certain, a little more predictable, a little more predictable these days. Maybe, and there may be, and I'll get into, you know, maybe that's a transition for the future of sports media, but there definitely was, especially in 2010 to 2015, covering moments, and they've, from like 2015 on to now, they've been maybe gotten a little less moments, as they've become maybe definitely a little more predictable, I'd say. Uh, but the future of sports media, VR, AR, AI, how can these technologies change how fans experience sports? Well, people who like to stay at home, I've seen it both ways. There's people who like the in-person events have become a lot more popular. I've noticed in Toastmasters, when we're looking to look for our in-person contests coming up, and we're looking for in-person locations. I'm getting the feeling that in-person stuff is more popular, and there's just not enough. There's maybe places closed down, or maybe places have closed their doors to certain events like this. But there seemed to be a lack of in-person locations, and we're like right now looking for that to run and host our contests coming up. But I get the feeling that there's a the word I'm looking for. There's a extra focus on people searching for in person. And now we're looking for in person, and it's become popular since pandemic is essentially lifted up, and 2020's come and gone, COVID pandemic, and people are wanting to get out and about. And there's certain people that still want to stay at home, they want to stay behind a screen, and that's okay. It's either in person, or I'm more, I support the 100% support the hybrid situation. You should have a choice. If you want to be behind the screen, or if you want to be in person, that's your choice. And either is okay. And I'm here to support both. Because there's fun in both. I've experienced a very powerful training that's started in person, obviously, and then went to Zoom, and I did it in Zoom, and it was very powerful on Zoom. Can only imagine what in person would be like, but like, things can be, if you do it the right way, like on a Zoom screen. All these people like say in person's good, and there's nothing that, and that's this is true. There's nothing that replaces an in person conversation. But if it's done right, if you keep it engaging, if you keep, like, a podcast, for example, like, people want to consume, and I get that. If you want to Stay behind the screen. If it's done right, it can be powerful the way it's done. You just have to know the platform. You have to know your audience, know the people, know your clients, know your audience, know the platform. What works on this screen? What works on this screen? What works? And if you keep that in mind, what works on virtual? What works in a game arena, in a sports game arena? What works? Maybe there needs to be some, and that's a conversation that maybe like that it's been going on already. Maybe there's more need for some things to get something new going to add excitement to what already was an exciting game. So other sports, other may not need to add as much. Some like an indoor ice hockey game is far more exciting than an NBA game, or sitting watching small people from the seats on a baseball field. So that's boring to some. And now, if you're really intrigued in the game in baseball, then you're paying attention to the small ball strikes moments in baseball. So like it's just like some are more fans, some are fanatics, some are they get the things into the game. So future of so VR, when you talk about VR, AR, augmented reality, virtual reality, yeah, it talks how to take and break down those moments to serve the audience that's there in person, to serve the audience that's there behind the screen, and really enhance the experience. How are they gonna do that? You know, using VR. I put on a VR game, a VR headset, VR glasses. What are they called? Put those on, and that may add something to the at home experience of what can be done in arena stadiums. So maybe to get closer and closer. Maybe I don't know. Like you pay more money to get closer, but what else can be done in that regard? But I want to talk about a little bit about this. I've being grown up in Houston a lot, most of my life, and I've been paying attention lately to what's hashtag conversation that's been on social media. NHL to Houston. Tillman Fertitta, the owner of the Rockets and I think associated with University of Houston, wants to bring NHL to Houston, and that conversations has been heating up in the last year with the potential move. I think the Arizona Coyotes, who play out in Glendale, Arizona, they actually are. They came up with something to keep that in Arizona. But there is some other options, and he was looking at how he can bring the an NHL team to Houston. Got a perfectly great. I've been. We've had IHL, we had AHL before I got into hockey in '99, following the Houston Aeros IHL, and then AHL, and what was then the Summit Compact Center, and now Toyota Center. We're both Summit Compact Center is now Lakewood Church. So that's out of the question for sports these days. But the great Rockets teams of '94 and '95 played in now what's known as Lakewood Church. Now playing in the Toyota Center now. And that building and Toyota Center were both great facility for hockey. I've seen it many times. I started getting into hockey, going to playoff games, postseason hockey in Houston It was exciting and I had fun. Thanks to good grades and attendance back in school, I got some free tickets that we upgraded, that we paid to have upgraded to glass seats, and I fell in love with hockey ever since that in 1999. At the same time, Houston Aeros actually had kept on advancing, and there was series after series. And before I knew it, I was falling in love with hockey, and the Houston Aeros were Turner Cup champions. At the same time, in the NHL going on there, in 1999, Dallas Stars also took the Stanley Cup in the NHL up there in Dallas. So I got in as a Dallas Stars fan, starting when we talk about NHL. So and that was one of the teams I was always covering with this. Starting in 2010, Dallas Stars was one of the teams, and especially when we got to the region, I always felt most connected, most close to the Dallas Stars because I was a fan. I technically still am today. So the future, I talked a little about the future and NHL to Houston coming up. Skills and adaptation. Getting this to 21 minutes here. I'm trying to keep this to like 30 minutes for for a, but like skills and adaptation and media production. So, experience on I want to talk with something. I was troubleshooting with someone in Toastmasters, and we were in a Zoom meeting, and we were talking about something, and all of a sudden it came up that I it's been brought to my attention in the past by coworkers, boss, whatever. I have the ability to learn something and adapt quickly to something new. Like usually within a day, give me a day and I'll have like most of a software thing, web, user interface. I'll have it figured out in a day. I'll have it mostly figured out in a week. Give me a week and I can put a training on it. And that all goes back to like we had this complex live streaming system that we brought on when we launched Fox Sports Go, and there was a lot involved, and you had to like really know the path of setup of certain things with this system, and I think it's due to that mostly that I definitely got the process down. If you think about the today, like when you think about the drawing a blank, but you when you start, it's a path. You start here, click here, and when you do, then it'll take you to the next thing. A funnel, click funnel. It's kind of like that, but like it's a workflow. All it is it's a workflow, setting up a workflow, and I even before that we had a workflow set up, a very complex workflow, but you had to like have a great understanding of how that worked just for uploading videos. Everything was like housed in a system and in a network, and they were waiting to be pulled from a remote source, and complicated, complex workflow that you just had to understand. And we got into this complex live streaming software. And today, because of that, I've developed a quick adaptation for learning something new. I can learn it, I can come across it, and I'm quick to adapt. If I see something, and this has been always been the case in my life too, if I see something now, I don't usually need to read up on anything about it. I just see it, and I can figure out for the most part what goes where, how it can work if I just essentially just looking at it. The other thing, like I always like to know, like I have the ability to just know and read people, like just from meeting them the first day. Like I can tell, like they're genuine if they're. I I wouldn't don't want to say cool, but like cool is one way to put it. But I can read people like, and I think that over the course of the experience, I don't know where exactly, but like something just started to click one day. Like, oh yeah, I thought that was the case, but like some other actions I would hear and experience and observe and sense later on would confirm my initial, and that kept happening over and over again. So once you do something, repeat something over and over again, you get better at it. You get better and better and better and better and better. And now I can read people, and I'm quick to adapt on learning anything. Especially one thing I always wanted to learn, and I pretty much know the others. Know a little bit of Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Premiere. I learned on back in school, but I always wanted to like get really into, and I've been doing a little bit with Final Cut too, because you're dealing with keyframes and everything and motion graphics, and I feel I'm confident I can actually get into it and learn and know how to use well After Effects if I wanted to get into some strong motion graphics. I always wanted to like learn that, and I think I can. But I've been doing a little bit with most keyframes and Final Cut even, so I'm getting there, and I know how keyframes work now. How to set up a keyframe to set it here. You want it is to move from here to here in a keyframe. So that gets into navigating career transitions. I've been in sports, digital sports, web, essentially out of college. Maybe it's time for something different. Maybe, I mean, I'd still like the sports thing, but maybe time for something different. And I always say, like, I tell people, like, I see myself in Houston, Pennsylvania, Florida, LA, among a few. But, like, I wouldn't mind maybe getting into, like, news, current events, or inspirational content, or if there's anything with sports still, podcasting sports. I think podcasting is a big future in sports, by the way, to add to that future in sports media. I think podcasting is it. Podcasting, and I've have over 150 episodes of my own podcast that I've produced. I can share some highlights and my favorite moments of my podcasting experience. I'll share that. I'll go through that next. But these hope that gave you a little insight into my professional life for you to, and hope that resonates with you as listeners. If you like this or anything else on this podcast, just always leave me a review. Tell me what you think. Go and subscribe. Keeping it real.tv. Go and so I say I want to offer my skills on learning and teaching what I learn and know quickly, and I can train and teach and show how things work and everything. And subscribe, leave a review, and do all the things wherever you're seeing this, like, share, subscribe, if you think someone else could benefit or anything. We're all here to help each other, support each other, and I hope you found value with this episode today with I have 5 talking points. I was starting out with 3, but going from sports digital web to an interest in inspirational content to podcasting to professional journey to insights to future aspirations. Covered it all today in this 30-minute episode on Keeping It Real TV. Hope to see you in the next, and keep it right here for definitely more. I definitely like to talk with people, but I got my work cut out for me for the next month. Putting this out, find some highlights, and I'll catch you later.